So, hello guys, and welcome to this second webinar on AWS User Group Rajkot, that is on automate infrastructure on AWS with CloudFormation. And before starting, let me give some short introduction about the Sanchit, who is our speaker. So, let me give his introduction. So, Sanchit is certified AWS expert and APN ambassador. He comes with 6+ years of experience in designing and building distributed application on AWS and prides himself on conceptualization to delivery of well-architected architecture. He has sound knowledge of most AWS services with extensive experience in setting up a secure and distributed platform on AWS using infrastructure as a code. He is also a DevOps advocate. So this was short introduction of the Sanchit. Now let me welcome Sanchit. So over to you, Sanchit.
It's really a pleasure from my end to be here and giving you a session on cloud formation. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Let me go ahead and start with the session. Please, within the session, please feel free if you feel that if you have any queries or question, please put it on the chat or unmute your mic and let me know the question. I'll be happy to answer all of them. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So today, I think what I'm going to cover in this session is a couple of topics. The agenda here will be why we want to use CloudFormation. What is CloudFormation? How does CloudFormation work? The internal concepts, the functions, and other stuff. The access control and a demo about the CloudFormation. So we'll try to go through each of this section in detail. And the idea here is to ensure that a person who has no idea about the CloudFormation can go through this, understand about it, and get some good learning from this session. So this is all about for you guys. Please, let's have more of an interactive session. Going to the next, about the speaker, I think Nipun has already introduced myself. My name is Sanchit. I work as a technical architect at Quantify. Majorly, my responsibility is to do in and out, being a AWS advocate for the client, design the right architecture, helping the client to build what they need in the market with world-class security, automation, and the business use case out of the box. So that's what I love to do in and out. I breathe about AWS and I talk about AWS. That's what is my job on the field as well as outside the field. Moving to the next, what is AWS CloudFormation? We everyone know the advantage why we should use cloud computing, why we should use AWS. I'll today focus on a one specific services, which is CloudFormation. So first of all, why we should use CloudFormation? So CloudFormation supports different resources, right? So for example, let's say you want to build a web application. Now that web application consists of an EC2 instance, Lambda, API gateway, IAM role, S3, DynamoDB. There can be bare minimum like 10 to 15 services which you want, which consist of this web application. Now it's really impossible that you go one by one, configure them, wait for that service to be up and running, and then you try to build. It'll take you minimum a day. And if you want to think of an enterprise layer deployment, it's bare minimum going to take a week for you. There exactly CloudFormation comes into it, that it's going to simplify the integration of the services in a one template format, and it supports all the different services. Whatever the services are provided by Amazon, which may be IAM role, S3, EC2, API gateway, everything is supported by CloudFormation. That's the one advantage why we should use it. Second, it is very easy to use. Nowadays, as a kind of a technologies, writing code in JSON, I mean, presenting your code in JSON structure or in YAML format is an easy go. That's how what you need when it comes to CloudFormation. You don't need to learn any new sort of a language. Whatever you know by default when it comes to Python or when it comes to your YAML format or JSON, that's more than suffice. That you can do forward. There is no additional thing what you need to do to play with the CloudFormation. Next, it's very flexible and declarative. Like the big advantage of using cloud formation is, one, you don't have to learn something new. Second, each syntax or each kind of a resource in cloud formation is very simply driven. You have to describe it, what do you need within that resources, and that's it. That's a simple stuff when it comes to putting out the cloud formation, or declaring the cloud formation in I mean a resource in a cloud formation. It is very simple to use and very elegant way to drive that forward. Moving to the next one, customization through parameters. As I mentioned in the previous point, writing a particular resource in cloud formation is simple. You describe, let's say I need a DynamoDB, or I need a S3 bucket. My name of the bucket is this. My logging or XYZ property for S3 bucket is this. So you not only define the resources in that cloud formation, you also can customize what you need. Like example, you can name a resource, you can integrate that resource with other stuff. Like you can put like Lambda API gateway. You can do not only just deploy those resources, but also can define the integration with it. The last thing, very easy drag and drop UI and visualization. In the previous point, I mentioned you that you need only JSON and YAML understanding when it comes to cloud formation. Now the cherry on cake here is, I'll tell you, you don't even need that also. What the best thing you have, like Amazon itself provides something like called as Cloud Format, which is like a visualization tool. Via that visualization tool also, you can drag and drop the resources, and you can customize, not only deploy or configure the resource, but you can deploy or you can modify the properties within the resource. And then what you get is a ready-made JSON or a YAML file at the end, which you can go and deploy to your console. So that's why there are advantage of cloud formation to use around it. That it's, if I recap, it supports all the different resources. It's very easy to use, flexible and declarative. Customization is possible through parameters, and all these things is possible via drag and drop UI to visualize and edit your templates. These are the five key things why cloud formation has picked up very well in the market. And each and every B, when he's working to the cloud AWS, cloud formation is a must needed service for everyone. Let's go and understand next is what exactly now is a cloud formation. We understood, okay, why we should use it, cloud formation, what about it is, but what exactly in detail is cloud formation? As I mentioned, cloud formation is, suppose you need to uh, build an entire recipe or an entire web application, as shown in the left diagram on the left side, that you let's say you, as a developer, you want to connect with CloudWatch, OpsWork, IAM role, DynamoDB, S3. There are n number of resources you want to consider. I'll tell you, as an enterprise architect, I've seen like bare minimum in a stack, you will deal with like 15 to 20 resources at minimum, considering from small configuration to the larger services. Bare minimum, you need 15 to 20 configurations and services and integration sort of it. Now, do think of it that this 15 configuration is not just deploying about it, but maintaining it, ensuring that it becomes a repeatable pattern. Yeah, it sounds really complex, right? There exactly cloud formation helps you in simple terms. It's create a package or a module. Like here you can see it just created as a package. It wrapped all the different requirements into one package, and that package becomes a reusable thing which you go and deploy, maintain it, have a version control. That's what the beautification or the beauty of cloud formation is. That it provides a simpler way to create and manage a collection of resources by provisioning and updating them in an orderly and predictable way. It's not like a very complex that, okay, once you have a template, you define step one is this, step two, step three, step four. It will go in that same sequence only, and it becomes very easy that you, if you want to give this template to someone else in your team members, it also promotes the sharing of it. Otherwise, in case of manually, you are just on your own, on your memory, what you have done or what you have documented. So it's completely dependent on your memories, but that's not the case when it comes to cloud formation. So that's exactly what is AWS cloud formation. And the best example of cloud formation is Expedia. Expedia is like an online booking site, online ticket booking, which is very widely used across throughout the globe. The entire Expedia infrastructure has been maintained via cloud formation. You can understand the kind of complex application it is. It's similar to like makemytrip.com, what we have. It's kind of that kind of an application. Just imagine the kind of the heavy application it is, and it's entirely been built via cloud formation. Next, continuing with what in our cloud formation is three simple representation. One is your template. As I mentioned, the representation of your file in JSON or YAML, very simple file. One is a cloud formation. You can consider this as like uploading this file on via CLI or AWS console to AWS, or in short, you're asking AWS to execute this template, and outcome is the entire thing what you need to see. It's pretty simple. You want to build a house, you define, here is my gate, here is my basement, here is my first floor, here is my second floor. In first floor I have X many rooms, in second floor I have Y many rooms. That's the entire script or blueprint. You give it to cloud formation. Cloud formation executes that blueprint and gets that blueprint into reality, which is a two storage home. So that's a simple narration of what exactly is a cloud formation. Let's continue about in detail what additionally outside do we talk about more about blueprint designing. What is additionally that cloud formation can help? All the resources required by user can be deployed easily using template that we saw in the first slide. Second, it becomes replicate your environment in multiple environments. That's a very key point. You can deploy manually the resources. That's not the problem. But think of it in how many environments you're going to deploy it. If I ask you deploy it for 100 environments, 200, 300, at the end, you cannot do it. So there exactly cloud formation can do. Just think of it. You need to build an EC2 instance with S3 and you need to take it across 1,000 accounts. Manually, it's not possible, or if it's possible, it's going to take at least a month for you to deploy in multiple accounts with proper testing and all. But let's say the same what you can do with cloud formation is you deploy in one account, test the entire thing, stabilize your cloud formation template, and just spin it across 1,000 accounts. It will take you max a day or two once your template is in place, successfully tested. That's the power of cloud formation. The last thing is reusability. The That's what exactly I mentioned. Cloud formation is not only templatizing it, but it also promotes this sharing of the code. What it does is like as like a configuration file, it has certain configuration section where you specify all the parameters and you specify all the resources. This way, it gives you an advantage that tomorrow you're deploying, let's say, in X region, in X account. In the next day, you want to deploy in Y region in another account. It is very usable. You don't have to make changes. Only you need to provide the right sets of parameters. That's what you need to take care. So, end of the day, you're not making any changes in the cloud formation. Otherwise, if you're making a changes, again, you need to test it, you need to validate it, ensure it's working fine. Nothing to worry about it. Just provide the right set of parameters. It's like fill in the blanks, just give the value in it, and things will work fine. Don't worry about it. I know I have described a lot about cloud formation, the entire template, the structure of it, resources. As we'll move forward, I'll walk you through one live demo as well as a couple of other terminologies like what resources means, what is parameters, what is mapping. I'll take you through all those details in the next upcoming sessions. Moving towards next, this is how the sequence, or I will say how cloud formation works in reality. You write your code, you write your template, develop it, design it in YAML or a JSON format as we saw, or you can use a visualization tool around it to do the same. The outcome is a kind of a YAML or a JSON file, which either you upload it locally from your machine, I mean from laptop, EC2, from any of the server, or you already upload it to S3. Once you have defined the location of your template, the next is you need to upload that template to either AWS console. There are multiple ways to do it. Either you use command line interface of AWS, or you use console and do it, or there are other sophisticated DevOps way to do like CI/CD and all. But high levelly, these are the two things. Either you use CLI or AWS SDK, or you use console and you upload the template there. Once you upload the template, Amazon start executing your blueprint, and the reality comes into the visual in aspect in terms, and you will see a different infrastructure comes into it, and you'll see the EC2 coming out, the S3 coming out, whatever the resources you have defined in your template all starts coming into reality once it is done. And let's say it's pretty easy. If let's say something goes wrong in the cloud formation, you don't have to panic. It's not going to be in mid state. The best part which personally I like about cloud formation is its capability to be very binary in nature. Like either it's going to be 0 or either it's going to be 1. So that is called as atomicity, that either it's going to deploy the entire infrastructure end to end without any errors, or it's going to roll back everything to zero states. So that way you don't have to worry about if something goes wrong. You're just testing in dev environment, something goes wrong, some configuration broke. The cloud formation, you don't have to go and troubleshoot in detail, okay, what went wrong, which resources got deployed, which is not. The UI is very elegant, that you will understand from the logs which are on the UI itself, and we'll try to understand that better when we are doing a demo. But that's how it's not helping you to reduce your overhead, but also minimize the troubleshooting and the kind of other details are required to handle cloud formation. But these are the 4 steps when it comes to how the cloud formation works. Moving to the next, let's understand the concepts about it. I think I've already talked in my previous slide. There are 3 things overall in the big umbrella. If I talk about cloud formation, a template, cloud formation, and a stack. Now, template is nothing but a kind of a file which is there in your machine. This file can be in YAML. This file can be in JSON, which has your blueprint. If I simply define, it's a blueprint which you define for your infrastructure. I need an EC2, I need S3, I need Lambda, I need DynamoDB. That's what is a template, which will go in detail in upcoming slides. What is cloud formation? Cloud formation is like a framework where it provides the capability to create the stack, to update the stack, to either error detection, rollback. So in short, what template you have, what blueprint you have, cloud formation gets you in reality. It helps you to execute it in simple words. Similarly, when execution, you can create, you can update, either you can delete it, and if there is any error, then you troubleshoot. Those are the things cloud formation provides. And the end goal is a stack. Once you successfully deploy a cloud formation, the output thing what you get is a stack. Stack is nothing but a configured sets of resources, the entire package, which we saw. That okay, I had like some scattered resources, or I defined some in the blueprint, and that blueprint into reality is called a stack. And the stack consists of all the AWS resources which you have defined or coded in your template. We'll take more understanding in upcoming slides about it. So first, we will be talking about the templates. Now, as it is mentioned, a template is nothing but a formatted text file, either in JSON or a YAML language, that describe your infrastructure. If I put it in very simple terms, it's nothing like a blueprint. You would have seen like a kind of a designer or an architect which get a kind of a huge like entire sheet which talks about, okay, I have 7 storage building, my first store, second store, third. Similarly, this template is when it comes to us on AWS, you define the entire architecture. This is my layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. This is how my layer 1 will interact with layer 2. That's what you can call as a template. And similarly, you can do multiple things when it comes to about template. And as I mentioned, you don't need to worry about, let's say, if you're not very much good when it comes to JSON, YAML, or about stuff. End of the day, you are a architect. If you know how to design it, that complexity is also minimized by AWS by using tool like CloudFormation Designer, where you don't have to worry about the syntax part of it. You just drag the resources on the console, configure the property of resources, and the outcome will be auto-generated, the entire JSON or a YAML file, which you can directly upload to the CloudFormation. So that complexity can also be very much minimized. But end of the day, you should be very good when it comes to designing the services, what you need, and what is your use case and which service need. If you are pretty good with that and you're clear, then there are multiple ways to solve the problem. Moving towards the next, CloudFormation provides 9 main objects. Sorry, those objects are nothing but 9 different syntax or different functionalities which help you to write your CloudFormation, which will go in detail in upcoming slides. What are those 9 objects are? Format, version, description, metadata, parameters, mapping, condition, transform, resources, and output. I'll walk you through in detail with an example what each section means, but these are the 9 objects you can say, 9 functions you can say, or 9 methods you can say, which will help you to design your blueprint of the cloud formation. Let's understand about them in detail. So this is how we saw about those 9 objects. This how the 9 objects are present. When it on the left side you will see JSON, on the right side is YAML. This is how you define those high levelly those 9 objects into your template. I will add outside those 9, the mandatory one is the resource section. And again, I'll explain you in that particular resource section why this is again important. But do remember, given any template, if you don't have a resource section, you have everything correct, still your cloud formation will error out because resource is a mandatory section. Now let's understand each of this template structure in detail, like which we talk about. So here are the total 9 objects what we have mentioned. Let's first understand about this. So the first line of the template, which is AWS template format version, this is nothing but the format version which we add, and this is a fixed value, which is 9th September 2010. This is a fixed value what you have. This is the first object. The second object is description. Description is very easy. Like for example, how you're going to tell people what this particular stack, once your cloud formation comes into reality, how people will identify what have you done in that stack. There are only way you describe it. Okay, hey, I am building a kind of a web application which is launching EC2, load balancer, and S3. Okay, you guys were able to intercept this because I explained you. Similarly, you add a description, and that description has to be very narrative to help people to understand what are you doing with the cloud formation. And this is very important when you're working in a large organization. These are some small best practices around that. So if we go through and read this description, is launch an EC2 instance running Apache, expose default page to the internet, hard code to work only with US East North Virginia. So with this description, it is very clear what this stack will be doing, what are the limitations of this stack, and up to what it can work. This is very important to describe around such details. The next section with what we can see is the parameters. Now, as I mentioned you in the previous slide, that cloud formation is more helpful when it comes to repetitive part of it. Now, it's pretty simple. You would have learned so far that S3 names are uniquely global. What I mean is, once, let's say you use AWS Rajkot group in account A, if I try to spin up the same bucket in another region, it won't allow. Similarly, S3 is a very common service. Every application uses S3 to download file, save log file, XYZ. How I can ensure that my cloud formation is a repetitive? So that's why I can take care of it, that when I am, let's say, deploying an account A, where the bucket name is AWS Rajkot group, let's say in account B, when the bucket name is, let's say, AWS user group India, it can dynamically change based on the parameter sections. So in parameter, you can runtimely provide the values, and CloudFormation will pick those values at the runtime, which you define in the parameter section. So this way, it will help you to scale and make it more repetitive. So that's about parameter. What is mapping? Generally, in industry, what we do is, when it comes to dev environment, the kind of server or infra what we use is of lower grade. Maybe let's say we will use T2 micro versus T2 nano. That is not for EC2, for database and everything, because we know very well this is just a testing what we are doing. When it comes to UAT, we use a higher version, and in prod we go to the max scale because that's what we go live. So similarly, how I can ensure this is the same cloud formation template from dev has been taken to prod with, and here mapping helps me that, let's say if I provide X condition, let's say for a very simple of it, if I provide flag as dev, it spin up the lower environment, lower resources. If I put UAT, again lower resources compared to prod, and if I put prod, it just scales out fully. We'll see a one coding snippet example in upcoming slides around the same. But this mapping is very important to ensure that you also have a proper cost optimization part of it, or you have proper capability when it comes to moving the templates across different environments, dev, test, and UAT. Condition is ensuring, as I mentioned about the previous example, let's say I have a dev, and in case of dev, I need to use T2 micro. In prod, I need to use like T2 large. This is a condition. Dev becomes my flag, and on a condition, what I need to do, which we define in the condition segment. Which again we have a detailed example about mapping, condition, and transform, because these are very complex thing, and it is important that you guys understand. So I'll give you a proper example in the upcoming slides. Transform, for now, let's understand transform is like reusability part. As I mentioned, I'm building a blueprint. Now, one of the thing about blueprint or AWS is it's very Lego brick in nature. Like one component, second component, third, fourth, it glue, try it together, and then bring the entire platform. Let's say I've already built an S3 or I've already built an EC2 for some other project. I want, instead of recreating or rewriting it, I want to reuse them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to already import the existing module. So generally, when you are doing any sort of a programming coding, what you do is you import certain libraries at the beginning of your project. Import java.lang.io, java.util. The concept here is to reuse the existing thing which is already there in nature. Similarly, what we do, the transform, that if you already have something in stored in S3, you import in your template rather than redefining it. The resources, as I mentioned, is a very mandatory thing where you define your resources, AWS resources. I need Lambda, I need EC2, I need S3. There exactly you define the resources. And the last is the output. Let's say end of you're deploying an EC2 and you get in public IP, which is of the EC2. How are you going to get to know if, let's say, I tell you don't have an EC2 access, but you have a cloud formation? So at the end, cloud formation can print the output for you, so it becomes very easy for you that you can get the entire output table, output of your infrastructure. Here are the different endpoints you can communicate with. So that's about the template structure. Couple of, as I mentioned, are very important, which will go in detail. One is the metadata. Metadata is very important, and not from the blueprint per se, but more to describe or document your blueprint. When you're dealing, I mean, in a complex business application, you're not going to deal with like 5-10 resources. You will have minimum more than that. It becomes very important that you define the metadata for them to ensure you understand end of the day. Like you're spinning in complex, you will spin out 10 EC2 instances or 10 different S3 buckets. So it becomes very important that you provide metadata to understand the intent behind it. And again, this is whatever the syntax are, these are pretty much common and agnostic whether you go with JSON or you go with YAML. As I mentioned, the example of mapping. So here you can see in the mapping, what we have done is, as I mentioned about the example of the S3. Similarly, in case of AMI, which you use for deploying EC2 instance, also vary from region to region. Like let's say if I'm working in US East 1, which is North Virginia, versus South B, which is Mumbai, even that region will change, AMI will change. So then how are you going to ensure that, let's say, if you're deploying a one web application on North Virginia, same should work for your India clients also in Mumbai? So there exactly, this region kind of flag can help you, that you can define the list of different regions, this corresponding AMI for 32-bit and 64-bit, and that is what you can leverage here when you're deploying the resources at the runtime. So when you're deploying the cloud formation resource at the runtime, cloud formation knows in which region are you deploying. Is it North Virginia, is it UK, or is it India? And accordingly it will look up. You just have to specify whether you need a 32 or 64, and that's how it will work to pick up the AMI. So that's a beauty of mapping. Next is a condition. So condition, as I gave you a brief about in the previous slide, how condition is very important to take your, bake some more complex scenario in template, not just make it very declarative, but also make some more complex condition to impose more of reusability and repeatability in that template. Couple of intrinsic functions are provided. Intrinsic function is nothing but the inbuilt function provided by CloudFormation, AWS CloudFormation, to incorporate or play around with conditions. So a couple of them are fn if, fn equals, fn ends, fn not, fn or. So these are the different intrinsic function. It's like your, if I talk about any programming language, it's like if else, for loop, and while, so couple of string manipulations, couple of conditions. Similar is here, that if you need, like for example, equals to compare, if, or for branching, and for putting condition, not again for condition. So those are the couple of intrinsic functions have been provided. Let's take an example of how condition can be added. So as I talk about to you in like different environments of development, production, testing. So let's say here you are providing environment as a parameter. Here you are providing the exact condition that okay, you only create or you only do something if the environment is whatever you provide the environment at runtime, or if for environment is not given, then you take as a prop. That's one. So it is comparing with fn equals, which we saw in the previous, and then it is deploying the resources. So what you can do is, based on the condition, you can decide whether you want to deploy a resources or not. So for example, let's say I already have an RDS instance which is running in dev. I don't want to deploy it again. What I will do is I will put such kinds of condition, and that condition I'll put it on the implementation or deployment of RDS. That if the condition is true, then only you deploy. If the condition is false, don't deploy. So such kinds of deployment can also be controlled with help of the condition object. Moving towards the next one is a transform, which as I mentioned is a key thing when it comes to reusability. That okay, if I already have something store or template already stored, how I can reuse it. So here we can see that okay, transform AWS serverless wait condition they are giving, and here they are talking about how they can use the mic other stuff around the AWS serverless and other thing. So it's defining that okay, how you can give my micro and AWS serverless as a transform, and then you can do it. And at the end of the day, you ensure that this module becomes, I mean, this code snippet becomes like a module, which module can be helpful to import and reuse anywhere which is required. Next, here we end the template part of it. Next, we will move towards the cloud formation stack. So as I mentioned about in the previous slide, there are three things which is important. The first on the left is a template, then there is cloud formation, and at the right you have a stack. Stack is like a template which is into existence. As simple, what we can see here, there is a rules. Rules are nothing but kind of a things what you need to bake in your template. Then there is a cloud formation, and the output is the different stack. Stack 1, stack 2, stack 3, which can be n number of it. But this is simple. Stack is nothing but anything which is up and running and live on AWS console, and it composed of different AWS resources like web server, database, etc., etc. And what you can do is what, as I mentioned in the beginning also, you can create a stack, you can delete a stack, you can update a stack. Those are the couple of operations what you can do in the stack outside defining the resources around it. So what we are going to do is we'll take a break here, and I'll open up for any sorts of queries before we jump on the demo part of it. So I'll go through live and I will give you a demo about how to deploy the cloud formation, as well as what I'll do is I'll give you the guys post this call. I'll share the entire GitHub repository where I have uploaded the presentation for this session, as well as the template file which I'm going to use for this particular session, which you can try at your own and get back to me if there is any queries. But now I'll open up for sorts of any sorts of questions or queries that I can answer here. Please unmute yourself and you can ask me on the chat, or you can talk to me. You can ping on the chat, or you can talk to me directly. That's also be fine.
Yeah, Sanchit, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So here is the one question from the Hardik, like what is best practice with cloud formation for the production mode?
Correct. So there are a couple of things. I mean, that's a really good question when it comes to the production part of it. When it comes to the production, you need to ensure that whatever the template you're writing, the way you're writing the template is very important to add couple of description part to it. So when this template is been deployed or in reality, people can understand as I talk about metadata, which is very important. Second, the template needs to be built in such a fashion that it becomes more of a repetitive, because you don't know in the prod. Like if I talk about in live environment, generally as a developer you have access to dev and the test environment, and prod is something, there are some automation way only that can be, you can deploy the things in prod. So where it becomes very important that you not only realize that okay, how your template can remove sorts of hard coding and all, like how you take care in your programming language, similarly you can bake those stuff. And the last point, which is very important, which I feel is try to make your template more dynamic in nature by using things like mapping, conditions, transform. Those things will help you to make your reuse the template, take the template and deploy in another environments for different clients and all, will give you more flexibility. It will be pain for the first time if you're coding it or directly without using any designer, but for the next upcoming deployments and all, it will help you over a long period of time. So those are the couple of pointers which I see as very helpful when it comes to cloud formation or sorts of best practices, I would say, which I'm following when it comes to taking it to production mode. Second,
That is,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So second question was also there with Hardik Patel also. So why we use cloud formation instead of Terraform?
That's a very good question. See, end of the day, CloudFormation and Terraform both are infrastructure as a code. What I mean, infrastructure is like you can put your entire infrastructure as a code language, which we refer as a template. Personally, I prefer CloudFormation. Makes much more sense. Couple of reason is CloudFormation is very well integrated with all the services part of it when it comes to AWS. Second, it becomes the kind of the designer tool which CloudFormation provides, that you can drag and drop the resources, you can play around with it. That's a very elegant way of designing your entire resources. When it comes to even Terraform, you have to write the code. There is no drag and drop kind of functionality which has been there. Third, when it comes to Terraform and other stuff, you need to have the different edge nodes or different machine to deploy the Terraform. It is not like you directly write the template, upload the to the console, and you'll get everything out of it. So you don't need any sort of a more heavy prerequisites outside your blueprint or your template. So those are the couple of best practices which I feel, or couple of easiest way where CloudFormation can help you rather than compared to Terraform around that stuff. Any more questions?
No, Sanjit.
Okay, let me do one thing is next I'll share my screen and we'll go through the template. We'll go through the live demo now. And again, don't worry. Feel free to ask me, stop, interrupt me, and ask me any questions which you have. And also, I'll share this template with you guys offline so you can have a look and get back to me. So far we learn about the 9 different objects. What is required?
Sorry to interrupt you, Sanjit. There is more 2 or 3 questions from Ravi. Let me share this on screen. I hope now question is visible to you.
Yeah, I have written few scripts. I've written few scripts on cloud formation related to spin up EC2, auto scaling, and security group. Sorry, I'm not. But the most difficult part of writing CloudFormation script was finding the exact structure or command to perform a particular action. That's exactly a good question, right, Ravi? What you have mentioned that. So my question is from where I can find the commands or a proper structure of CloudFormation templates. That's a very good question, as you brought it up. That one is around selecting the right services. Second is the configuration part of that services. there is a good documentation link is available, which can help you in detail what is a resource. For that resource, what are the different properties you can enable, like kind of a lookup link, I would say. And for that particular not only option, like for example, what I mean is EC2. Now for EC2, you can attach a volume, you can attach an elastic IP, you can do other operations when it comes to customizing that part. What are those operations? What are the default values? What are the values and how you need to provide? Those kinds of very exhaustive document is available by AWS itself. I'll share you a link offline, which is not just for EC2, which covers all the services which is supported by CloudFormation. That will help you to not to remember the things from your memory, but you can look up into the documentation and that will help you for all the properties that you need. And it's a standard and it's updating by Amazon itself. So as and when the new service will into the picture, you will easily get the syntax out of that. Next question.
Yeah, we can move on, Sanjit. There are no more questions.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so far we this is called as a template. In reality, this is a template which I've written in a YAML language around that stuff. Now, when it comes to template, we learn about a couple of things, which is the 9 objects which template supports. So this is the first one, which is kind of a version. As I mentioned, template version and the respective value. This is about the description part of it, that okay, you give a description that okay, what this template will be doing. Again, you should not write the description like this. You need to make it more elaborative so it becomes very easy to understand. This is the entire metadata, which I mentioned about metadata is like what it's saying is label, default, AMI ID. So it is describing this particular AMI ID, that what exactly is all about, and it is labeling this. That's second. Sorry, that's third. The fourth is the parameter sections. Like this, both are the parameters, environment type as well as AMI ID. So this will give me a flexibility that I can deploy this same cloud formation in North Virginia, in Mumbai, as well as in Canada or in UK, any region, without making the changes, because the AMI ID is something I need to worry about it, and that's what I'm taking at a runtime. And again, these are very internal to my application or my organization, dev, test, and prod. So this I can give it runtime. This is like more of a logical understanding. But the key important thing for the stack to run in different accounts is this AMI ID, which we have taken as a parameter, as a runtime variable. Second, as I mentioned about the mapping, right? That when it comes to the dev, it will spin up a kind of a very base instance. Test, it will spin up a kind of a T2 micro, and prod, it's going to spin up as a T2 small. So this is how you can see how based off the environment, it's going to change the requirement. And if I close all these things, you will see this is the entire resource section. This is a very key thing which I mentioned to you about resources. This is a mandatory requirement what we have when it comes to the resource part of the cloud formation. If you don't have the resource section, your cloud formation will fail. We'll go into the resource section in a second, but let me talk about the output. So here, as you can see, that whatever the resources I am deploying, I'm capturing the output for it, like the public DNS, the elastic IP, the entire website URL. So instead of going through EC2 console, or let's say the load balancer, dragging different console, I can avoid that kind of an overhead. In a one table at the end of the cloud formation, in the output section, I can get the entire list of all the outputs, what resource I deployed, what is the name of it. Let's say if it is kind of an endpoint resource like API gateway or load balancer, I can get all the detail in the output section itself. So it becomes very easy that everything you can get it under one umbrella rather than going into different consoles and doing it. Which seems possible, there is no doubt to it, but this simplifies it that you can get into one console itself. I'll minimize the output and let's go to the resource section. So here I'm doing couple of things, like I'm deploying the IAM role part of it. I'm defining the IAM policy, which I'm attaching as an instance profile. Like I'm deploying the IAM policies, attaching to EC2 instance. So EC2 can have the IAM permission. This is exactly where I'm deploying the EC2 instance. So I'm taking all the details, like the IAM permission, the image ID, the instance type, security, which is a common thing. The important thing is the user data section. What exactly is the user data section here? So we always understand, I mean, so far I talk about that, okay, if you want to deploy anything, CloudFormation can help you very well. But let's say, for example, you also want to configure a couple of utilities. Like you want to, let's say, install Java, install Python also in the EC2 instance, and want to ensure that when you say success, that my cloud formation will deploy successfully, that means this particular resources are also been installed, and as an when user logs in, he directly gets Java out of the box. So those kinds of things are also possible, and that you can do via user data. So here in this example, what we will look forward is, I'm not going to log in into the EC2 instance. That means I'm not going to do SSH. Still, I will see that, okay, everything which is required to host a website is already taken care by the cloud formation with help of the user data help script. And at the end, I'll just get a URL. I will take that URL, put it into the browser, and the entire thing will be up and running. So let's understand what we will be doing in this particular user data. So I'm going to update the libraries or the utilities into the OS. I'm going to install HTTPD and PHP. These are the two things I'm going to install in my OS. I'm going to start and enable this. Start means that you're going to not only once you install, you start that out, and enable means, for example, if due to some reason my EC2 get restart or it gets restarted, some maintenance activity and all, the processes within that will get killed. So how I can ensure that when my system restarts, my application also restarts along with it. So this will taken care by my enable. So enable will ensure once the EC2 is up and running, this particular HTTPD application is also up and running, which is nothing but the web server. Second, next I'm giving the permission which is required to Apache user between EC2 instance. Then I'm giving the permission to this particular directory where.ww. These are the all configuration which I'm doing when it comes to providing the right permission, right user level permission, and that executable permissions to the folder level. Here comes the important part where I'm defining my PHP code, which is very important. That you told me that, okay, you're going to deploy a PHP. Where is your PHP code? So here exactly is my PHP code. Technically, this is a very simple HTML code what I'm deploying, and underneath I'm just adding a couple of small segment of PHP, which is here. And what I'm going to do here is, I think what in EC2 section everyone would have learned about this particular IP address. With this IP address, you can query the metadata of an EC2 instance. So this is a good example. What I'm doing is, with this help of URL, I'm going to runtime fetch instance ID. Again, I'm going to fetch the availability zone part of it. And I'm going to add into this variable, and this is what I'm going to print on the console. When I say console, is the browser. So once the stack gets deployed successfully, we'll get the output URL. We'll take that output URL, put it in the browser, and what we are going to get is the instance ID and the availability zone where it is deployed. That's what we will be doing in the user data section. Next important thing is about security group. Again, for the demo purpose, I am opening the port 80 to 80 at this particular IP address, which is universally acceptable. Please do ensure, don't do this when you're trying at your end. Please ensure that this is accessible by everyone. I have done it intentionally so I can share that link with everyone, and you can try to access this HTML page at your place also. But please avoid doing and like putting this 000. That means anyone from anywhere can access your EC2 instance on port 8080. So there is no security that is there. So please avoid doing it. So this is, as in our 3-step process, this is what called as a template, where we go through all the different sections, the different content. Second part of it, what we are going to do, as I mentioned to you, I'll go to the AWS console. Here is what my AWS console, which is very familiar to you guys. What I'm going to do is I'll click on the CloudFormation. I'll click on create start. So there are multiple options of that. So I was talking to you about, okay, how I can use. So here exactly, you can also use the designer part of it. I'm not going to focus a lot about this one designer in today's session. We can have one more session about designer, but here you can define all the services what you need. You can directly, let's say, drag and drop these services here, and then you can take care of all these services from here, and then you can define around this one. And also, like for example, underneath the services, you can see the different things are which has been there. Like if I go, let's say for example, the same one what we are going to deploy. Okay, I deployed, let's say, instance. And I think there was one question from someone that, okay, how do I know what are the different properties I need to enable? So as I drag and drop, I get an instance automatically. Let's say I need to do a launch template. You'll get a launch template also automatically here. And underneath, you can see this code is getting auto-generated, which I can select as a JSON or YAML, and it will automatically take care of it. End of the day, you're getting the entire thing with all the best practices here. So there are multiple advantages of using this tool. One, you don't have to worry about the syntax. You don't have to worry a lot about the syntax. Two, the best practices, what you need to come outside this description, which you can manually add here. But the rest of the things are coming out of the box. Three, the diagram, the visualization, what you're drawing is also becomes as one of your artifacts, which you can share it with anyone to understand what have you deployed, what have you have designed and built. So we'll go back to from the screen. So as I mentioned, so this is one. Second, there are reusable libraries available. What I mean is a couple of libraries which are already shared by AWS. You can take advantage of this ready-made templates also available if you're trying to deploy one of this particular application. Since we are going to deploy something which is not available here, we will select template is ready. We already have template defined, and the template can directly be uploaded via S3 URL, or you can upload it from locally. Currently, the template is at my machine, so I'm going to select upload a template. I select choose a file, and I'll select particular CloudFormation. Once it is done, you can see under behind the scene, even if you are uploading your template locally, the template is getting uploaded to this particular S3 location. This bucket is by default created by CloudFormation in your account. So end of the day, this simply means CloudFormation can deploy the resources from S3. It can allow you to upload the files from locally also, but end of the day, it needs the template in an S3 bucket. And also, if let's say if you want to get the template, existing template, the design of an existing template, you can click here and you can understand the design of an existing template also. Like the one which we have deployed, how it looks like, you can also understand that after uploading the template. So it need not to be that you have to design the template in the designer. If you already have the existing template, you can upload it and view it in the designer part of it. So it will take some time for it to up and running, but we'll go ahead and go and click on next. So here comes that what detail you need to specify. So what I'll do is I'll specify the template name. Ensure that template name must include this details only. It's not allowed to add any special characters. I'm keeping this as is for now, like this particular AMI ID and environment, as we can see, dev, test, and prod. I'll keep it to the default one, test, and I'll click on next. You can also give the best practices, like you can tag your CloudFormation, you can define your IAM roles from it. You can also configure additional details like stack policy, rollback configuration. Rollback means very simple. As I mentioned, the CloudFormation is very binary in nature. Either it will deploy completely and give you an outcome as a stack, or it will fail and completely roll back. Like rollback is to completely zero state. Let's say due to some reason your cloud formation rollbacks, and there are like 10, like you have like 4 or 5 stack bare minimum, it becomes very difficult, very manual, that you go identify which failed, what failed, and all. To avoid that, what you can do is you can define the number of minutes after the operation completes, and as well as the CloudWatch SN, CloudWatch alarms. So this way, via CloudWatch alarms, you can ensure if something fails or something goes wrong in CloudFormation, or even if something succeeds, what you should do. So both the options are available. One is the rollback configuration is also available, as well as SNS notification. So this way, you don't have to manually set and watch the console. You can take an advantage, and automatically you can get a notification on your mobile as an email form that, okay, what's happening, where exactly your cloud formation has been deployed. The last one is a creation policy. What happens, let's say, as I mentioned, that cloud formation is binary in nature, 0, 1 kind of stuff. Let's say still you know that your cloud formation is going to fail, but you want to troubleshoot it in a lower environment. So you don't want the cloud formation to roll back. So that's kinds of settings are also been given to ensure that by default it is selected as enabled, but you can disable the rollback. As well as you want to ensure if no one incidentally go and delete your cloud formation, you can select as enabled, which will ensure this cloud formation has been terminated, protected, so no one is deleting your cloud formation. We will leave it to the default option and we'll click on the next. So this is the final review page where it is talking about all the details. What have you uploaded, what property you gave. Let's say if you're defining the other advanced properties also, you can review it here. Since we are launching, as it mentioned, this template contains IAM resources that might provide identity access to make changes to your AWS account. Check that you want to create each of these resources that they have minimum required permission. So here also Amazon is warning you that please ensure that you provide least privilege access, and as well as you're going to make some changes in your account, which is more terms of IAM role. I will say acknowledge that I know about it and I have ensure about it, and then I'll click on the create stack. As soon as I create stack, you will see it start launching in it. It will generally will take roughly around minute to 2 minutes to get it in place, and then we will see that entire stack will be live, up and running. Let it get complete. What I'll do is I'll stop my screen and I will answer if you have any queries in that meantime. Once the stack is up and running, we'll see the live outcome of the stack and we'll take it from there. Please guys, feel free to ask any questions. If you have any queries around it, I'll be happy to answer them.
Sanchit, I think you are explaining very well manner because no questions are coming out.
There are two things: either people are not understanding silence means, or the second one what you mentioned. So if there are no questions, what I'll do is I'll continue sharing my screen and we can see the different live events that's been generated on the console. So this is a stack what we just deployed, right? I'll go into the event section. You will see that couple of events that has come up, that okay, I user initiated the cloud formation, and this is a sequence of all the resources which are getting deployed, and you can see the status, whether it's create in progress, create complete. And let's say end of the day, I want to understand out of the entire bundle of resources, how many are completed versus how many in progress. You can go on to the resource section. Here you can verify, as we can see that out there are 3 major resources what we have: IAM role, instance profile, web security. This is up to so far what cloud formation has detected, out of which 2 are completed. Currently the instance profile is in creation initiated. So CloudFormation is waiting for this particular resources to get complete. The do remember, output will only get print once the entire CloudFormation is completed successfully. And these are the parameters what we have given when deploying the cloud formation. And this is the template. If someone again still wants to go and look into the template after it get deployed, you can check the same template on the console itself. As we can see now that the instance profile under the event section is completed, and now it is launching the web server instance, which is nothing but the EC2 instance. So what we'll do is we'll go to the resource now. As you can see, as I mentioned, that this resource section will get updated as and when CloudFormation detects new resources. So far previously it detected 3 IAM role, instance profile, and security. So it's shown 3. Now it also detected the web server. So it started creating the same way like how it was for the instance profile. And as we can see, the instance profile, the EC2 instance is also completed. It has also print a physical ID, which means if I directly click on this, it will take me to that EC2 instance, which was just got deployed in Mumbai region via this cloud formation. So here you can see that this is what I've just deployed it in Mumbai region via cloud formation. And as I mentioned previously, that everything what you need or any resources which get deployed, like for example, this elastic IP is also printed here. If I go in the output section, you will see everything what is required in terms of the web service or what we have deployed. Everything is printed in output, and we can validate that, okay, this is 35.154.186.193. This is the same address here also. So instead of going in EC2 instance and looking up for the details, CloudFormation can provide you, if you provide the output section, CloudFormation can provide all the details here. As a next, what we will do, the last thing is, we will see whether the CloudFormation is completed successfully, which we can verify from the left side that it is create complete. I'll go to the output section. I'll click on this URL. I'll click on the next, and you can see it's printing my instance ID as well as AP South 1A, which means the Mumbai region 1A is a availability zone. So that's what we were expecting for the cloud formation to run and get me at the runtime. And here, this will ensure that we are able to successfully deploy the cloud formation workshop. Again, I'll give this link to everyone. In terms of the presentation deck, you can get it from here, whatever I've presented you guys today, as well as the cloud formation. For the guys who will be writing it for the first time, this can be a starter which will help you to understand this. So I've given this cloud formation also, which we just deployed it. Please leverage these resources to get more understanding, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any queries and question. That's all for today's session. Thank you everyone for for helping me to give this wonderful sessions. Nipun, over to you. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. So thank you, Sanjit, for this amazing session. It was really very informative session for us. And so now it is a quiz time. So we have created one quiz, and your questions will be displayed on the screen, and you have to give the answer. Like similarly, if you are taken part in the first webinar, the similar kind of thing it is there. So I'm just pasting the link of the quiz. Okay, let me copy it first. This is the link of the quiz that I have pasted on your chat. So when you are going to open this, uh, sorry, yeah. So I have pasted the link in the comment, so you can check it out and you can go there. And over there, now let me share my screen. So just a minute, guys. I'm sharing my screen and we are starting our game. So yeah, the rules of the game is only first winner will going to get swags or the credits that will be decided by our team. So that you will get it. And I'm sharing my screen. Okay. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let it be. Okay, okay. Just a minute. I'm sharing my screen once again because it shows us the wrong tab. Yeah. So I've shared the screen. Okay. Issue. I was not able to share my screen. Wait a minute. Yes. So. oh, Okay. Okay. Sorry for inconvenience, guys. Just a minute because my laptop is a bit hang mode. Yeah. So this is the game bit. You have to enter this. If one player is joined. So we are waiting for others to join. Or we can do like if two or three player is going to there, then we are not going to play this quiz. Okay, Hardik Patel is joined. Okay, we are waiting for 2 minutes. If two or three players or more than three players are going to there, then we can definitely play the game. Otherwise, we will not going to play this game. So we are waiting for 1 more minute. At 5:10 we are going to look at like if it will be more than three people, then we are going to play. I think people are not interested in playing the games, so we should postpone this plan and we should hand over with the last note, keynote for the presentations. And yeah, we are dropping this idea to play a game. We will play it in next webinar or next time. So yeah, so thank you, Sanchit, for this amazing webinar, and thank you for taking out the time. It was very very informative for us. So last, thank you very much, Sanchit.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Bye, guys.